Welcome back to another episode of Just the Tip with Dr. Vic, Sex Nerd Podcast. My name is Victoria Hartman, and this episode is going to be another audio episode. As I told you guys last week, I did 2 weeks ago now have facial surgery, and well, my healing process is ongoing and definitely getting closer to being camera ready, but not quite camera ready. So I thought today I'd do another brief audio version and tackle the notion of hypersexuality. This is going to be a very straightforward episode. So let's get into the basic question of, can your sex drive be too high? Well, that's a common question. And there's a lot of subjectivity in defining a sex drive as high. It's really difficult to come up with a clinical definition of hypersexuality. It's not an actual diagnosis in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that psychologists use to diagnose psychological disorders, etc. And quite frankly, it's pretty controversial as a term in the psychological community anyway. And really, as scientists, we don't have a consensus of what hypersexuality is. So how have we attempted to define it? Well, there's a study that attempted to define it as people who have 7 or more orgasms a week, one day, or one orgasm a day on average. But the thing is that in that particular study, 26% of men and 10% of women reported having 7 or more orgasms a week. So first of all, where did they pull this number of 7 orgasms a week? Like, why would that be considered hypersexual? And why would that having an orgasm every day be a problem anyway? Maybe that's simply part of someone's sexual health maintenance. They get up in the morning, they have an orgasm, and they get on with their day. Well, so we can't necessarily define hypersexuality by how many orgasms we have. And I think also my previous co-host and I did an episode, and I'll make sure to put that at the end of the video or at the end of this podcast, on the genetics of hypersexuality and how even that, and how they used, what criterion they used to determine hypersexuality genetically is problematic. Okay, so then there's been an attempt to define hypersexuality in terms of feelings of psychological distress, like, are you bothered by your sex drive? Is it causing impairment in your daily life? But that also is problematic because some people with normal sex drives who have had a certain kind of religious upbringing or were taught sex negative messages in their family of origin could be very distressed about what is a very normal sex drive. And also, it could be that perhaps they would like to have sex. They're in a relationship and they want to have sex with their partner more than their partner wants to have sex. And so the partner who doesn't want to have sex as much, even though for them, both of their sex drives is normal for them, one of them considers the other one to be hypersexual because they want to have sex more than the other partner. Well, that doesn't really fit either. That's a relationship issue where there's sexual desire discrepancy. It's not a hypersexuality issue. Sometimes hypersexuality can be a symptom of something else, but it's not the cause of, say, a mood disorder. Sometimes it's the mood disorder or things like depression that can manifest itself as sex being used as a coping mechanism. We've also done an episode on sex as self-harm. So it's not the sex frequency that's the problem. It's the underlying mental health issue that's the issue, that's the problem, and that needs to be addressed. Hypersexuality, in quotes, could simply be a symptom of something else. So clearly you can see that we don't have a definition of what hypersexuality is, because it's a very difficult thing to define and is influenced by a number of factors. Well, if you're someone that's struggling with what you consider to be too great a sex drive, or you're distressed about the way in which your sexuality is expressing itself or manifesting, then it's a really great idea to talk to an informed sex therapist, preferably a sex positive sex therapist, to unpack what's going on and why you might be feeling distressed about the frequency of which you want to have sex or how many orgasms you're having. And you can address that with a skilled clinician to unpack what's going on and hopefully find some solutions that are positive in your life. Like I said, this was going to be a brief audio episode, and I can put links to the academic paper that talks about the frequency of orgasm. It is a, let's see, Pullman, Kingston, and Lalumière. Orgasm frequency, total sexual outlet in a national American sample, the archives of sexual behavior from 2022. So it's a pretty new study. I'll go ahead and post that. Thank you so much for listening. I don't know if next week I'm going to be back to doing video. I hope within the next month. Like I said, healing is ongoing, and I will stay checked in with you all. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will talk to you next week on Sex Nerd Podcast right here. Bye.